Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in to the Stuff I Heard podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Peak, and we have survived Thanksgiving. I do want to talk about Thanksgiving for just a second. So, this year for Thanksgiving, me personally, I got together with my family, my mom and stepdad, and my brother and his family, and my other brother and his family, and it was fun. We had lots of good food to eat. The kids are growing up. Their kids, not my kids. My kids are grown. Matter of fact, today is my oldest's birthday. Happy birthday. And it's very interesting to watch these young kids grow up pretty fast. It's also interesting that my Uncle Danny is still alive. My Uncle Danny came to visit us from Georgia. He years ago was one of those larger than life kind of people. And he ran a construction crew, was building houses. Um, I remember seeing him pick up very heavy things. One time he picked up my mom's Honda Civic and put it in the back of his pickup truck as a joke. Uh, and then came inside and was like, Deb, you wouldn't believe it. The wind was blowing so hard it blew your little car in the back of my truck. You got to get that thing out of here, man. I can't have you rolling that thing. I mean, who has that kind of strength? He did. He was that kind of guy. And about the time we built his house, he got a brain aneurysm. Not a brain aneurysm, a brain tumor. Excuse me, a tumor. So this tumor started in the middle of his brain, and it was, from what I understand, growing like an octopus in all directions from the center of his brain. It was so unusual; they'd never seen anything like it. During his treatment, they said, "Oh, we want to name this after you so that we can." He's like, "Don't name it, fix it. Or if you can't fix it, dissect me and figure out how to stop people from having this in the future." And he went through full treatments. um, During the time of him having this problem, he lost motor function. He lost the ability to speak. He had to relearn how to do all those things as the cancer sort of subsided. I remember him going through treatment for quite a while, and at a certain point, he told them, "I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. I'm gonna put my faith in God." And they're like, "You're not gonna make it without treatment." And he's like, "Then I'm done." And I remember us all praying, and he got better. He got better, and so he's working, drove himself here. Um, Dog's fine. His sense of humor is back. Um, but it's just interesting to see the transformation in people and the resilience in people. And we all have that. We all have that within ourselves. It's just a matter of doing it or being motivated to do it. Or I don't know. Some people have inner strength, some people do not. Um, my buddy Greg tells me often that one of the things he likes about me and my podcast is the fact that I'm so positive about things, and I try to put a positive spin on things. And I try to uplift people, and we have a choice in life. We have a choice of what we can do with this life. We can sit around and let things happen to us and be sad and just let it consume us, or we can take action and we can do something about it. And I've always been raised, I'll be honest, mostly by mom, with the mentality of, okay, that was bad. What now? What are we going to do with that? What are we going to do with this information? What are we going to do with this challenge? Because it's still going to be there, and you have to figure out how to overcome it. And so we do. Hopefully everybody does. Not everybody, but hopefully everybody does. So it was great seeing family. It was great seeing my Uncle Danny. I was happy to see the kids getting older, growing up, becoming their own people, per se. I did have some time to watch some TV, though. And I know this is stuff I heard, and I want to talk about some stuff I heard, too. Um, I finished listening to Bert Kreischer. Let's talk about what I heard. I finished listening to Bert Kreischer on the Bertcast interview Rosebud Baker. She's a comedian. Apparently, her family is into politics. Her uncle was like, I don't know, some aide to George Bush, Jim Baker. Let's see, when she said Jim Baker, I thought of the the religious guy, Jim Baker, but it's not the same guy. Anyway, when she graduated high school, she had a graduation party, and she was the oldest of, I think she said, four sisters, and her youngest sister um, drowned in the hot tub at the party. And apparently, hot tubs at a certain point were not really regulated in how they were made. And it was a party. Everybody was in and out of the pool and in the hot tub. And her sister got her hair caught around something to do with the filter. And apparently, three grown men tried to rescue her from it, and they couldn't get her out, and she drowned in this thing. And after that, they had some kind of legislation that was passed where they regulate these things now the way they're built and with safety features so that that doesn't happen again. Now, I don't know anything about the case. I didn't hear about the case at all. Honestly, my experience with hot tubs are very limited. I think I've only been in maybe less than 10 in my life. But this was an interesting point of view from this woman who said she went off to college and basically had no coping mechanisms. Like, her family was in shock. They all shut down. Nobody got counseling like they needed. She got very heavy into drugs and alcohol. And um, just before it killed her, she got help and then got into comedy. And she's been doing comedy now for about 9 years. I haven't looked up any of her comedy stuff. I'm sure it's great. It has to be great for Bert to want her on the podcast. And she was a very interesting interview. They talked for over 3 hours, and it was great. She's sober. She's married now, has, I think they're having a kid or had a kid or trying to have a kid. Anyway, very interesting human, very positive person, even through all of the crazy stuff that she's been through. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the interview. Um, I'm listening to one right now of him interviewing a guy, and I'd never heard of this guy before, Andy Frasco. He's apparently the lead singer and frontman for Andy Frasco and the UN. And I didn't know who that was. Like, starting this off, I didn't know who that was. And again, I'm like, I trust Bert. He's not going to interview anybody that's boring or stupid. I mean, he's had those in the past, but he sort of turned that curve where he's not having anybody on that he doesn't know or isn't excited about. And so I just blindly followed it. And I said, well, I got some time to drive. Let me listen to this. Bert talks about having surgery, and he reached out to his fans and said, I want to listen to some music as they put me under because I'm really nervous about this surgery. And everybody apparently told him, you need to check out Andy Frasco's Dancing on My Grave. And I had never heard that song. I didn't even know who Andy Frasco and the UN were. Through the interview, though, I'm listening to it now. I'm like in the middle of it. He's a very interesting guy. He started a band when he was young. He talked about having sex with his teacher at 15 years old and getting into a lot of trouble when he was younger. Being in a band at an early age, hosting events at an early age for Capitol Records. He now opens for like Widespread Panic and a bunch of different bands, but he also like headlines a lot of shows too. And I got home last night after work, and I looked up YouTube and I punched in Andy Frasco and the UN, and Dancing on My Grave was one of the first ones that come up. Now, I don't know if that's because the thing listened to my conversations and was like, oh, this is probably the one you're looking for. Whatever. It came up and it was beautiful. It was an uplifting song about when I pass away, have a party and remember the good times. It was a very uplifting song. It was how do I describe it? It's a celebration. It reminded me of Louisiana kind of sound. the Cajun sort of festival music, with horns and tambourines, and but it's a rock song too, and it's good. It's really good. The video is cute, uh, especially the part where he's like, tell my mama this, tell my daddy that, tell my past loves this, and it was just a flash of everything. And then they kept going to people dancing around the grave, and I thought, what a good sentiment. And it was such a good song that I bought it on iTunes. I was like, I want to listen to this a lot. Then he had another one that came on right after it about a change of pace, and it starts off in the video with him and this kid, old videos of them being best friends and living next to each other. And it shows them at a very young age, maybe five ish, with one of them on a keyboard and one of them playing some toy drums. And then the song basically is, through life, one of us through circumstances, we end up separating, but we always stayed friends and we always kept in touch. And then it shows the other friend becoming a man and getting married, and then back to Andy, basically running this band and having a good time, and how they merge and they call each other on the phone and they still laugh and still are best friends through all of it. And I got a little teared up watching it because I was like, this is me and my friends. This is our life. This is our reality. As for whatever reason, we bonded when we were young, and maybe it's through trauma, maybe it's through life experiences, maybe it's through shared life experiences. I'm not exactly sure why. Um, but this song reminded me of them, and it reminded me of our bond. And I wanted to call him, and I was like, I'm not calling him right now. It's kind of late, and I've been working since 4 a.m. So, but it's a beautiful song. Change of pace. Andy Frasco and the UN. Check it out. All right, now let's switch. On Apple Plus, I've been watching The Foundation as it's been coming out week after week, and this show started off, and I wasn't really sure I liked it. I'll be honest. I've talked about this on the podcast before. The Foundation, when it began, I was like, okay, they got lots of cool special effects. They got that one actor that played Moriarty in Sherlock Holmes. Everybody else, looks somewhat familiar. I think I've seen them as background characters and things, but yeah, whatever. The story's okay. Blah, blah, blah. The special effects were amazing. I could tell Apple dumped money into it, so somebody believed in it. Well, each episode that got further and further along, like episode, 7, 8, 9, got better and better and better. I mean, really good. And then episode 10 was amazing. Episode 10 was a finale. I'm guessing it was 10. I'm just throwing a number out there, guys. I'm not, don't hold me to the fire of that. The last episode of the season came out, and it was amazing. It was really amazing. It had a twist in it that I wasn't sure how they were going to tie these two stories together, and they did at the very end. And it was a mind-blowing moment. It was a moment where I literally jumped off the couch and I was like, get out of here. Holy cow. It was one of those kind of moments. I was blown away. It was a big surprise. I don't know that. Here's the thing. I don't know how good it's going to be. I don't know if it's worth watching again. Like, there's so much good content that's coming out all the time. I don't know if I'm invested enough to watch a season 2 if it comes out. But man, that final couple of episodes where they tie everything in together is really done well. And it makes all the other episodes make sense. It's sort of like when I talked about watching Another Life on Netflix. I talked about Katie Sackhoff being just a great actress, and how Netflix had kind of hit a home run with season 2 because it reminded me a lot of Star Trek and how they could take that platform and really take off with it. But it took the suffering through season 1, which was mediocre at best. And season 2 just rolls right into, all right, we're better than this. I mean, it's almost like they changed writers and everything. And maybe Foundation will do this. Maybe the Foundation will. Maybe they changed writers halfway through and was like, we got to get on this because people aren't really that into it. If they did, great, because the last episode was dynamite. The last couple episodes were dynamite. Um, anyway, so let me talk about another show that I literally blazed through because it's so good. It's an animated show on Netflix. It's called Arcane, Arcane. It is reminds me of steampunk mixed with anime. Okay. There is a very steampunk element to this where people have these very crafty inventions that don't quite make sense, but they seem to work. And the storyline is a machine world versus a magic world of possibilities. Not magic is just magic, but magic is in they find this thing and they don't exactly understand it and they're trying to understand it and somehow it gives off energy and the energy does magical things. And there's magical things that do happen. And there's creatures that don't look like normal people, but are just treated like normal people as though they're normal. And in the first episode, you're watching these children go through some stuff, and you're like, why am I watching this thing about children? The first episode was really puzzling to me in the beginning because I was like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into. But after that, like the very next episode, they're more grown and there's more at stake and there's more that is developed. And the first episode is basically just, okay, here's where our story's starting. We're going to give you a background of who these people are. Now let's kick it off. And I mean, from that moment on, you're buckling your seatbelt and you're going to experience a wild ride. Now, this is a show where, to me, the protagonist, the bad guy per se, is the most exciting character in the show. And I've said this before that if you're going to have a good show, you got to have a good bad guy. You got to have a compelling story for why that person is a bad guy. Marvel's done this a lot of times in the past where they have a really compelling story of how someone who had the right idea or the right purpose just took the wrong path to get there and became the bad guy to make things happen. And this is sort of taken a note from that. And they've given you a bad guy who is, in all intents and purposes, trying to do what he thinks is right. And then a female protagonist who just became because of circumstances. And she is the most compelling character on the show. In the beginning, her name is Powder. As she gets older, she changes her name to Jinx, and you see why. And she is a Harley Quinn uh, type of character, super hard to kill, super intelligent, comes up with crazy inventions, always has the one-liner jokes that get you, always gets the best of everybody, even though you're like, how did she do that? How did she get away with that? Like she is probably the most interesting character in the whole thing. She has a sister on the show who's, I guess, is supposed to be the main character, but she's not. In my opinion, Jinx and Powder is the main character. Jinx is the main character. And it's really good. It's really good. Arcane, holy crap, Netflix. You guys, whoever greenlit that project, dynamite job. Just dynamite. Lots of gunfights and sword fights and animated blood and gore and stuff like that through the fight scenes. Different gases are used for different things. The upper crust of society lives up in the clouds, and the people in the slums live down below. And there's an interesting battle between them. The people in the upper society have this bright blue energy that comes from magic that's supposed to be making them live a better life, and the people in the lower part of the city they're using this purple gas like stuff that's supposed to be giving them powers in a way, but is also killing them in a way. And it's interesting the way they use just the vibrancy of the colors whenever they interact because of all of this interaction of giving them meaning and giving them purpose. It reminded me a lot of Star Wars. You're going to have a face off between these different colored, bright things that blend in with the grayness of everything else. And it's just everything about it's beautiful. The the way they drew the designs, the way they drew the characters, the way they drew their fight scenes, the way everything takes a moment and does have beautiful moments in it. Even the nasty stuff is just brilliant. Arcane is brilliant. That's my big win of the week. Arcane. You gotta watch it. It's not for kids, even though it's a cartoon. I wouldn't say it's for kids per se. Maybe teenagers would really dig it. But man, what a great show. Um, then I watched South. I mean, not South. I watched Cowboy Bebop, the remake. John Cho is the main character. John Cho, you remember him from Harold and Kumar, also from Star Trek. Um, Good Asian actor. I say Asian because he looks Asian. He looks. I don't know if he's. I think he's Chinese descent. I think I read somewhere that his father is some sort of Chinese ambassador or something like that. Really good show. I had heard about Cowboy Bebop years ago. Apparently, it was an anime type cartoon that was kind of popular. I'd never seen it. I'd heard about it, but I'd never seen it. So I walked into this live action thing not knowing what to expect. Um, Good character development from everybody. Interesting story. Again, really decent bad guy, and their use of names in the thing is really funny. Like the bad guy in this is his name is Vicious. Um, and Vicious has a father in it that you don't find out until towards the end. That's actually the guy that plays Senator Palpatine or the Emperor in Star Trek and Star Wars. Same dude. I was when he took the helmet off and I saw his face, I was like, "That's Palpatine! Holy crap! He's the bad guy." I was like, "That's so cool." Anyway, but Vicious is the main bad guy. Vicious is the guy you can't take your eyes off of. There's a love story in it. There's a friendship in it. Um, there's betrayal. There's all sorts of weirdness that has to do with them being in space and in the future that are just silly. Like someone said something about it that them having a dog at a certain point, and the dog's like, "Oh yeah, those things are super expensive. You got to pay a tax of like 30 million credits in order to just to have one, and only the rich have dogs." And it's just there are parts of it that are silly. There are parts of it that are super serious. There are parts of it that are super dangerous. There's lots of foul language. There's lots of gunplay. There's lots of blood and gore and stuff like that. And all the while, John Cho's character is walking around in a suit and he's got his hands in his pockets and he'll just wander into the scene, maybe smoking a cigarette. And then it's like a cowboy Western in space. It's called Cowboy Bebop. Um, he'll walk into a scene and things go sideways and he uses martial arts and kicks everybody's butt. And his buddy's got this, way of uh, sort of adding comic humor to the thing while also being his best friend on the side. Um, Interesting story. I liked Cowboy Bebop a lot. I really hope they make more of those. It was fun to watch. The style was interesting. I can tell they styled it after the cartoon because after I finished this, I went back to Netflix now has the cartoon available, and I went back to watch it, and it's really similar in the first episode. And I'm going, okay, do I need to watch the same show again? And I was like, I liked it so much. I don't even want to watch the cartoon one. So very cool. I think they are going to make more of them. I looked up the cast and took a screenshot of it because I was like, who are all these people? These are very interesting people. But yeah. So anyway, last night I watched. What did I watch? Oh, I watched South Park, the post-pandemic special or a post-pandemic event. um, I'll be honest, it wasn't funny. This is supposed to be. It was an interesting take on the virus and coronavirus and all that stuff, and they just openly in the beginning say okay, so COVID's finally over. What are we gonna do? The kids are finally free to go outside. Surely it didn't affect the kids. And then it shows the South Park kids who've been 9 up to now as adults. They're like in their next to 50 because it's supposed to be like 40 years later. And right off the bat, you're introduced to them and they're pretty jaded about what happened. And it took me a moment to realize that Stan, as an adult, I thought he's talking to his wife, and it turns out to be like a different version of Alexa. This just looks like a woman. And of course, the more he talks to her, the more he's telling my Alexa to do things. And I had to go back later and like take all that stuff off. Um, but the show really wasn't funny. I don't know if they wanted it to be funny or if they just wanted to get out what they were thinking. It was interesting in the fact that Cartman becomes a rabbi and has a wife and 3 kids, and all the time he ridiculed his buddy for being Jewish. Then turns to be a rabbi, and the whole time he thinks he's messing with him. I don't know, whatever. Um, I did want to talk about something really cool, and I forgot to even write it down. I was going to write it down. I put it in my phone last night and everything. Red Notice. Red Notice is a fantastic movie on Netflix that came out with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, and Selena Gomez. Not Selena Gomez. That's another thing. Who's the woman? Gal Gadot. There. Sorry, Gal. Totally did not mean to screw that up. I got sidetracked. I looked at my computer screen and I can see the sunlight coming through the blinds at a ridiculous angle. But yeah, show starts off and Ryan Reynolds and is supposed to be some kind of thief, master thief of sorts. And The Rock is chasing him as a cop, and Gal Gadot is supposed to be another master thief. And the humor in it is really, really, really funny, but it's Deadpool funny. It's almost like they had Ryan Reynolds write all of the jokes, or people that worked on Deadpool work on all the jokes, because it's really not for my mom jokes, but for everybody else, they're going to laugh through the whole thing because there's nonstop jokes through this. The action is really good. The chemistry between the 3 of them is really good. All of the characters are really good. I think Netflix really was like, "Hey, listen, we got The Rock to sign off on something, so whatever he wants to do, let's go with." And then Ryan Reynolds was somehow part of it, and they were like, "Okay, let's do that too. It's just whatever they want to do. That's greenlight it." And then Gal Gadot's involved as well, and it's a winning trio. I see them making more of these. Apparently, this is the most downloaded and watched show Netflix has ever had. Or not show, but movie. Yeah, movie. So, Red Notice, big win, really fun to watch. Go check it out. And that's it. I'm going to wrap this up. I don't know how long I've been talking. I just turned it on and started talking, and now the sun is coming through my blinds. I normally have them closed, but I got up so early this morning, I thought, yeah, look, the sun's barely coming up. This is good lighting. This will be nice and smooth. And it wasn't. So with that, and I'm out of here. Please go check out Andy Frasco and the UN Dancing on My Grave and Changing Pace. They're both really good. Really good. Okay. Thanks for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, share this with your friends. If you want to be on the podcast, let me know. We'll talk about anything. My dad's coming to town today. We might do one later. Who knows? Who knows? Anything can happen. All right. That's it. Take care. And as always, I end this by saying, cue the cow.
So I want you guys to give me more likes. Give me more likes.